Welcome to the HR Happy Hour Work Break for a Friday. You got me here, Steve, with you one more time solo. Trish still on the road. Hope she had a great trip. Yesterday, we did a ton of, or Wednesday, I should say, we did a ton of labor market stories on the work break. And I didn't want to do full on labor market Friday as well. But then I woke up this morning and realized it's JOLTS Report Friday, and it's my favorite labor market report every month from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So I do want to highlight a couple of things from the September JOLTS report. The data on JOLTS, as you probably know, is on a 1 month lag. So this is September data. The headline numbers, of course, openings, 10.4 million in the US. That's flat from the prior month and about 500,000 or so off the all-time series high, which was around 11 million a few months back. But still, 10.4 million job openings is a really elevated number and very, very high. Quits, that's really the big story once again in the JOLTS report this month. An all-time series high, 4.4 million voluntary quits, voluntary separations, which basically is about 3% of the workforce. It's an all-time series high. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics has been tracking this data since about the year 2000. And finally, the other number I like to keep an eye on with the JOLTS data is the unemployed persons to open jobs ratio, right? So in theory, of the officially unemployed folks, if they were to fill all the open jobs, what's that look like? So the ratio of unemployed persons in the US to official open jobs, according to the BLS, is 0.7. That's really, really low, extremely low. That's even lower than it was prior to the pandemic, which essentially means, once again, even if all the unemployed persons filled one of the open jobs, there'd still be several million open jobs in the United States left unfilled. And just for context on that, the worse that ratio got in the pandemic era with unemployed persons to open jobs was back in April of 2020, right? About a month into the extended shutdowns and business closures here in the US, that ratio was 5.0. So there were 5 unemployed persons for every open job in April of 2020. Incredible data, incredible quits data, by the way. And I'm sure if you're an HR person or a talent acquisition person listening to this, that resonates with you, right? And how difficult it is to not only find people, but certainly to continue to retain them in this labor market. One more labor market thing, I've been following this a little bit, which it's an offshoot, I think, of the pendulum swinging, right? Of more power going towards employees in kind of the employee-employee relationship, right? We've probably had 30 years, if not more, of the power really swinging towards employers for the most part. But now in this labor market and what's happening with quits, it's definitely swinging back. And one of the places where we're seeing it is in labor activism and strikes specifically. There have been a number of high-profile strikes going on in the United States recently. 10,000 workers in John Deere manufacturing plants in the Midwest, Kellogg cereal factory workers, Kaiser Permanente healthcare workers have authorized going on strike, about 30,000 people in several states. Heck, there could even be a Major League Baseball lockout, right? The collective bargaining agreement when the Major League Baseball Players Association and the league, it ends at the end of December. It expires. There's no new deal in place. We could even see a quote unquote strike and or lockout, depending on the term you like better. I think technically it'll probably be a lockout of baseball players next season. So I thought it'd be interesting just to look something up because I hadn't in a while because I didn't really know. What is the percentage of workers in the United States who are actually represented in a labor union? And it's still kind of low. The overall percentage is about 10.8%, representing about 14.3 million workers. This is at the end of 2020 data. But there's a really big difference between private sector employees and public sector employees in terms of who's represented by a labor union. In the private sector, that percentage is only about 6.3%. Only about 6.3% of all private sector workers were represented by a labor union, whereas in public sector workers, it's almost 35%. So quite significantly more. And that makes sense, right? If you think about state employees, federal employees, et cetera. But the actual numbers, raw numbers, since there's so many more private sector employees in the labor force, the raw numbers for both those groups is about the same. It's about 7.2 million each. So for a total of about 14.4 million workers represented by labor unions. Both of those percentages and the numbers are up slightly from 2019. Remains to be seen if that pendulum shift in power in the labor market will cause labor unions and representation numbers to go up as well. I know there's a really interesting case I've been following with some Starbucks locations in the Buffalo, New York area, where employees at a few Starbucks stores there are trying to organize and trying to get a vote to potentially form a union, which Starbucks certainly doesn't want and would be the first one, I believe, in Starbucks history. So super interesting stuff in the labor market as always, and it keeps labor market geeks like me endlessly fascinated. Okay, it's a Friday. Let's have some fun, some non-labor market stuff. Christmas season, I guess, is here, and you would know this if you were follow the Hallmark Channel and their millions of Christmas movies. So I just looked this up for today. Today's November 12th. I'm recording this live on November 12th. You might see it some other day, but November 12th, it's a Friday. If Trish were here, I'd make her guess just how many different, unique, original Christmas movies that the Hallmark Channel is broadcasting today on November 12th, something like 6 weeks before Christmas. I wonder how many. You think? Can you have a guess? I'll give you a second to guess. Think about it in your mind. What's your number? Okay, here's the answer. The answer is 12. There are 12 different original movies airing on the Hallmark Channel today on November 12th, 6 weeks before Christmas. Want to go? You want some of the titles? Here we go. We'll go quick. We have The Christmas Club. We have Christmas at Holly Lodge. We have Christmas by Starlight, A Christmas Treasure, Crashing Through the Snow. That's a good one. That's a good pun. Finding Santa. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. My Christmas Dream. It's more like My Christmas Nightmare if you have to sit through all these movies. Never Kiss a Man in a Christmas Sweater. That's probably good advice. Once Upon a Holiday. Open by Christmas, 6 weeks from now, maybe. And A Very Merry Mix-Up. 12 Christmas movies today. And this is kind of like every day. It's not just today. There's like 10 or 12 every single day for 6 weeks. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they come up. The plots for these movies are pretty easy, I guess, to write, to craft up. I feel like I could probably write one myself, but good on them. Last couple things for me today. People Magazine announced this week the 2021 Sexiest Man Alive. And shockingly was not me for the 30th consecutive year, but hats off to Paul Rudd, who was named Sexiest Man Alive, who seems like a relatively normal, kind of straightforward guy, and maybe give some hope to the rest of us normal guys for next year, although I probably won't get it again. Finally, one more workplace item. Anyone watching in Portugal? If you're watching this in Portugal, let me know. Anyone? No Portuguese viewers? Okay. Good news if you work in Portugal. Portugal recently introduced a law that bans employers from contacting workers outside of their normal working hours. This includes by phone, by text, by any messaging service you may use in your workplace, or by email. And a similar law was passed in France in 2017. It's especially important, though, in this era of remote work, right, to help workers kind of maintain some kind of semblance of working and not working separation, right? Like, it's interesting to see how well that'll be enforced. I think there's some fines for employers if they violate those after hours messaging contacts. In the United States, I know I've talked about these things for a while. They've happened in France. They've happened now in Portugal. There's been some German laws as well. There's been some German companies I remember in the past would actually deactivate their internal email servers so that their internal email system would not send emails like after 6 p.m. on Friday and wouldn't start up again till like 7 a.m. on Monday. I know none of that stuff would ever fly here in the United States, but I'd be interested to see if anybody knows of any U.S. company that's tried anything like that in their own organization. I would love to know. I think that's really fascinating. So, all right, that's it. It's been fun doing a couple of these shows solo this week, but I can't wait to get Trish back on board next week. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about on Monday. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We hope you have a great weekend. And reminder, you can check out all the show archives, the podcast, everything on the network, even the replays of this show. Everything's at hrhappyhour.net. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.